Ahoy, and welcome in to another exciting episode of Not Allowed to Die, your podcast about mental health, where I, Dan Bagler, social worker and life enthusiast, answer your questions about mental health. Alongside me, as always, is my partner, Mariska, the three-toothed Patterdale Terrier. And you may hear her licking her paws a little bit in the background, which we know she does more of when we're not rating and reviewing the podcast. So if you can rate and review and give us a 5-star review, that makes her happy. Although it's time for a confession. Mariska let me know that it was me that she was frustrated with. The licking was for me because I have not been doing a good job of reminding all of you that this podcast is always brought to you in part to help promote Pause for Patrick. So we want you to remember that if you think about mental health in young people and you think of a young person who might benefit from having an emotional support animal, go to pauseforpatrick.org and Pause for Patrick can help you find an emotional support animal, get funding to acquire one, and if you need an emotional support animal letter, find a person to help you write one. In addition, Mariska really wants me to promote our Instagram, Not Allowed to Die Pod on Instagram, where you can follow us. And if you want to see a picture of Mariska, which we know you all do, that's the best way to do that. And so Mariska's extra excited because today we have a guest who is a dog enthusiast. But that's only the beginning of her ability. She is an award-winning author, a mental health advocate, and a marathoner who is going to help us understand a little bit more about how to break in to what is intimidating to a lot of people, which is meditation, and how we can turn a lot of the exercise and activities of our daily life into that. So Nita Sweeney is here,
Well,
and thank you so much for
having me
joining
on
us.
the podcast. These are such important topics that you're covering. I'm very excited about our conversation.
So again, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about how you got into this, how you discovered that exercise and other activities can be a doorway into meditation. So could you bring us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, well, the meditation kind of came first because I've been meditating for almost 30 years. I was dating a guy who was a meditator, and he said, "Want to sit?" And I said, "Want to what?" And he said, sit, meditation. So he trained me kind of, and over the years, it became my thing too. And then so I was probably in my 30s, early 30s then. In my late 40s, I started running, and it became a mental health tool. I was chronically depressed. And because I was already meditating, within a very short period of time, I realized that I could meditate while I was running. And I already kind of meditated while I was walking because I knew how to do that. We do that often at retreats. And so when I added the meditation to the movement, it was a little bit supercharged because I was getting all the positive, happy brain chemicals from the movement. And there's so much science behind that. And there's tons of science behind the happy brain chemicals and other excellent things that happen with meditation. And so combining the two, it seemed very efficient, and it was efficient. It also, I think, made me a better runner, which was an extra bonus that I hadn't really thought about because I was using less energy. I was only using exactly the amount of energy I needed to do the activity I was doing, as opposed to all the mental chatter that often happens when we're not focused and concentrated. So yeah, it really was kind of on accident. But once I found that, I realized I was onto something that other people had been doing for centuries, let's just say. But it was new to me, that kind of supercharged combination. And so I decided to start sharing that with other people through some little tiny Instagram videos, and then eventually a book.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I don't know if you remember those old commercials where the one person's walking with the chocolate and somebody else has the peanut butter and they bump into each other. And it's like this. Yeah. And for myself, I always say, I'm not sharing anything new with anyone who's listening to the podcast. I'm sharing a perspective that maybe they haven't encountered before. And you're saying, yeah, you're not the person who invented this idea, but you might be the person who's helping communicate it, because until talking to you, I mean, when you and I chatted before, it all makes so much sense as you're saying it. But I encounter, I'm always trying to get my clients to consider meditation. But so many of them they'll say, well, I don't have time, or and some will get to the gym. But so what are some misconceptions you're hearing from people about meditation that kind of acts as a barrier that keeps people from wanting to get started with it?
Well, the one that is what I'm working with most right now is the myth that you have to sit still to meditate. Now, caveat, it is true that when you still the body, it helps with calm focus, slowing the mind, things like that. That is true. It is kind of a signal to the mind to calm down when you still the body. But you can do the same techniques while you're moving. And so that's the first misconceptions, is that you have to sit, you have to be still to meditate. The second misconception, which might be even larger than that first one, is that in meditating, you have to force your mind to quiet, that you have to calm your mind. And so a lot of people will say, oh, I can't meditate, my mind is too busy. And to which I respond, well, good, that's your mind's job to think thoughts. That's its work, that's its job in the world. And so what we do in meditation, which addresses that issue, is we create conditions that help the mind to calm on its own. But some days I still will be meditating and my mind is crazy busy, but I know what to do with it. I know how to just let it kind of do its little dance. And then if I don't add energy to it, it will eventually kind of calm on its own. It'll sort of run out of speed. But usually we're either jumping on the thought train and riding to the station with the thought train, or adding thoughts, or fighting the thoughts, or reacting to them in ways that add extra energy. And that's when the thoughts just continue. Whereas if we learn how to notice that the thoughts are arising and just sort of let them go, they will eventually calm down, but that may not happen right away. So that's probably the biggest misconception, is that you have to force your mind to be quiet, or that you have to have a quiet mind to begin with to meditate. And that is the opposite is actually true.
When it sounds like you might also, I love that as part of your story, you came to running a little bit later. It's not like you grew up as a cross country kid or anything else like that. So what are some misconceptions you are hearing from people about their ability to exercise? Like, are you finding some people who are feeling like, oh, well, exercise really can't be for me because I'm just not in shape enough to get started, or, anything that you communicate to people to help them with that perspective?
Yes, I was definitely what is the word? Adult onset athlete. I think it's not my word. It's John Bingham, as a running coach guy, that said that, running writer. But I think that starting small, people sort of think, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to be all in, and I need to do it, every day, or I have to do it in a way that's makes some huge difference. And the tiny little, kind of drip, drip, drip sort of way of working actually works much better. The plan that I started running with, the interval training plan I started running with, the phrase that hooked me was 60 seconds of jogging. Now, it said other things too, but that tiny little bite that felt like something that was so small I couldn't fail at it, gave me the permission to leash up the dog, go down in the Sidon Ravine where no one could see me, and try it. And so I think the other thing is like, what is exercise? That there's certain things that are that count. Like, I have to lift weights, or I have to run, or I have to do whatever. You like pickleball? Play pickleball. Laser tag? Hey, that counts. I mean, just park your car further away and walk to walk across the grocery, but do it in smaller ways, so that it's not the huge, big, hairy deal. And then the other thing that is actually possibly why I continued running, which I didn't know this at the time, was I found something that sang to my heart. So what happened was, I didn't tell anybody for a while that I was running. And then eventually I always joke that I made the mistake of telling my sister. And her daughter, a few years before, my niece had died of cancer at 24, and of osteosarcoma. And so after I made the mistake of telling my sister I was running, she said, hey, there's this 5K for cancer research funds. Why don't you come and do it? I'll do the 1 miler and you do the 5K. And to which I promptly responded, "Oh, no, 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 no. I'm a private runner. No, no, no. I'm not leaving the neighborhood." I really
Mhm.
was kind of just, I do have mental health issues, and paranoia was one of them, and just
Mhm.
this body dysmorphia, all that kind of stuff. So I eventually got over myself. And the reason I did is because that cause was near and dear to my heart. So
Mhm.
that's another thing I'll say to somebody. Don't think about the exercise, think about the cause you're raising money for.
Mhm.
And because some people are very heart centered, they need to be pulled toward an activity by things that matter to them. So things like that can be really helpful. I know there's stair climbs, there's all kinds of charity events of various types of movement. Find one maybe 3 or 6 months from now. If you can find a friend that's going to do it with you too, even better, because the camaraderie and accountability will help too. Um, so I had this one friend who was on social media, and she had been posting about her running. And so connecting with her a little bit helped me just sort of have somebody to talk to about it, be accountable, things like that. But there's lots of different ways. But the biggest thing is just if you're sitting on the sofa, stand up.
Mhm.
Walk around the sofa. That's your first lap. Sit back down. You're good. Check. That's today. Tomorrow, get up, walk 2 laps around the sofa. I mean, just cut it down to tiny bites, because overwhelm, especially people who have any kind of mental health issues, overwhelm tends to be a huge obstacle. And a lot of time it's a mental overwhelm. It's overwhelm that we do to ourselves in our minds.
Mhm.
And so breaking it into those just tiniest bits, that's what keeps me going and has kept me going now for, I guess it's been 12 years now I've been running, which is crazy to even think about.
Yeah, I always say whenever I'm dealing with an anxious client who is overwhelmed by something, I remind them about eating watermelons, and that we don't try to eat the watermelon whole, but once we slice it into manageable chunks, it's actually a lot softer than it seems. It's just cutting through that hard exterior. It's the starting that makes it so hard.
That's a great analogy. It reminds me of a many, many, many years ago. I needed to make a couple of phone calls. They were like to insurance companies and stuff,
Hmm.
and I had so much anxiety. And a friend of mine who also meditates talked about staying in the moment as I made the phone call.
Mm.
So just all I was doing was lifting the receiver. Right now,
Hmm.
I'm just lifting the receiver, and the next thing I'm doing is just dialing the number. And then the next thing I'm doing is either saying hello, if I could do it in those tiny beats. And that's the thing with eating a watermelon. You're, right in this moment, you're cutting the watermelon,
Hmm.
and then you're maybe serving it into a dish. And then so that for me is part of the benefit of meditation too, is it helps with overwhelm because I'm only actually focused on the thing that's right in front of me. So I kind of segued a little bit, but I think it's a similar technique. The chunking down has many, many benefits.
Well, no, what I love about your example is that's and with your writing as well. What you're showing people is how mindfulness and meditation can be practical. Like you're already doing a lot of it. A lot of the things, a lot of the techniques of your life, you're already doing these things, and so you don't have to learn something that's totally foreign to you. It's about just reframing and seeing differently how to just make a subtle shift. You were already going to pick up that phone and make that phone call. Now we can bring in, so it's making it practical to your daily life. Not that the meditation is, okay, I put on my robe and I slip into my meditation closet and it's totally separated from my life. That when it's being done correctly, meditation can be brought into your daily activities and hopefully make them easier and more accessible. So,
Yes, yes.
so
That's my goal. Thank you
mhm.
for seeing
Well,
that. Thank you.
that's what I love about what you're doing. Sharing. I was talking with one of my former students. I remember about his weightlifting routine and how he really was already practicing mindfulness by just even like he was clearing his mind of everything, just really being in his breath, being in his body, bring the weights down, pushing them back up. So how would you? So for a person who already is exercising to a certain degree, what would you tell them is kind of like the next step in bringing that into true meditation?
So the first thing is choosing an intention of what you're going to do, and it's usually the place you're going to focus. So it's usually a body sensation because thinking is kind of sticky, and you want to um, build the focus you need before you start working with thoughts. I do talk about working with thoughts, but and let's say so actually let me back up. The intention is what interval. So maybe if you're lifting weights, for example, you're going to be mindful for 6 reps or 3 reps. So you choose an interval, and that creates a little container, kind of like a little pressure cooker effect. And also it tells your mind, which mind is often jittery, it tells my mind, I'm only going to do this for this period of time. And so it takes a little bit, drops the anxiety, takes a little bit of that fear away. So that's the first thing, is kind of choose how long you're going to do this for. And then choose what we call the object of meditation, which is a fancy phrase for where you're going to put your mind. And it's usually, like I said, a body sensation. It can be the breath. That is a body sensation. But it can be, and body sensation is actually what they call a felt sense. It's a touch sense of your breath going in and out, your nose, your lips, your chest rising and falling. That's all a felt sense. So it could be that. It could be the feeling of your hands on the bar. It could be the feeling of the weight shifting as you lift it. But you just choose one of those. It could be a sound. It could be a sound of, as you know, sometimes when you lift, there'll be a sound as you take the bar up. There's like a sound, depending on if you're using a machine or if you're doing fruits. But so you can use sound. You can use vision. So it could be, you could be lifting and you could keep your visual field as your object. So maybe a wall in front of you, something like that. And we can also use taste and smell, but with weightlifting, it's probably not that good. But like with running, I use scents a lot, especially in the spring. We have lilacs here, and so I'm from Central Ohio, USA, and we have lilacs here, and so I'll use that sometimes in spring. The scent of lilac coming in, the sensations that flow through my body, and then the lack of lilac, the space that's between that. And so, but that's the thing, is choosing the interval, choosing the object. So what sense you're going to use, and just pick one, and then starting the activity and putting your attention wherever you have selected to put it. And then when your mind wanders, and there's 2 parts here that are probably maybe the most important thing. One is remembering that you're meditating. Okay. So when your mind wanders, you go, oh, that's right, I was meditating. And then gently, gently, gently bringing your mind back, because we have a tendency to go, oh, see, I can't meditate. I'm a loser at this. I can't, my mind is wandering. And right. No, that's normal. So you have to train the mind. It's like a little puppy you're trying to train walking down the street. You're not going to drag it off its feet. You're going to gently tell it where you want it to go. So you very gently bring your mind back once you've remembered, and then you start again. And when you're doing any kind of reps, it's going to take a little while for you to figure out the thing that works for you. Because the way I lift weights, the way you lift weights, the way that person lifts weights, there's going to be a difference in what we sense and feel as we do it. So you have to kind of make it your own. But those are the big parts, is just that choosing the time period, choosing the object of meditation, and how you're going to focus your mind, remembering you're meditating, and gently bringing your mind back, and then just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. That's it.
And what kinds of benefits of, so I was like, in doing that, because, and it's not like people are going to, after you did it, you're going to get a grade. Oh, you got an A+ in, meditation for that day. So what are some of the things that you're seeing for people who are, or even for yourself, when you've done this exercise meditation? So as opposed to, like, yes, for anyone, they might get endorphins or other things like that when exercising, but when we're adding the meditation, what other benefits might people be getting by combining the two?
Yeah, that's a great question, because sometimes it's hard to tell, because there is a lot of overlap in the benefits. Mm-hmm. So what I have experienced is more calm and concentration. And so I'm able to run not a lot faster, but a little bit faster with less effort, because I am using only the exact amount of energy or effort for the activity I'm doing, because I'm remaining calm while I'm doing it, because the focus helps, again, calm the mind. Mm-hmm. It also helps calm the body. And so my heart rate will stay a little bit lower, which allows me to run a little bit faster. I also find that in the rest of my day, over time, it's not going to be magic, 6 weeks or anything like that, but over time, I find that I have a better ability to concentrate in other areas of my life, because that same focus of bringing your mind back, bringing your mind back, bringing your mind back, builds concentration in the rest of my life. There's also a ability to tolerate discomfort, which anybody who exercises knows that that's part of the deal. There's going to come a point where it hurts kind of in a good way. You don't want to hurt yourself. I had no injuries here. Thank you. Safety first. But that there comes a point where you are pushing an edge. And by using the focus and concentration, you can push that edge just a little bit more. And what that does is it helps you tolerate discomfort in the rest of your life. So you're having a disagreement with somebody. That's a level of discomfort. And in my pre-meditation days, I might have acted in one way, possibly ineffectively. And now I have more of a choice, because I can stay in the discomfort longer and be able to tolerate the situation, so that I'm making a choice as opposed to reacting. Before I would have reacted because I just needed the discomfort to go away. And so that's a big one. And then growing new brain cells. Growing new brain cells. I love that one.
That's awesome.
But that's a big one. So it's a physical component of being able to do the activity better and more efficiently. The mental health benefits, you get extra brain chemicals, because not only are you developing or you're getting all the happy brain chemicals you normally get, you're also getting the calm and concentration of meditation. And then cognitively, there's the focus, the sharpness that can be helpful in the rest of your life. And it will naturally bleed into the rest of your life, because you're building a skill set that is completely transferable, that you won't even have to know. I mean, someday you'll just go, oh man, I would have really gone off on that guy. And I actually sat there and listened to him. Things like that will happen. But it will take time. But it's a skill set you're building, like muscles. It's like that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're learning to reframe stress as, instead of it just being, again, because when we're exercising, we're seeking out stress. We're choosing to stress our body, but we're reframing that as a challenge that doesn't have to destroy me. In addition, I find that my clients who meditate, they have just this greater capacity for new stress that comes in. It's almost like creating I'm all about, we have to balance our risk factors and our resiliency factors. And if we're going through a stage of life where we're having an increase in our risk factors, the job is getting more stressful, we've got finals coming up, something like that, then I'll say you have to then increase your resiliency by, giving yourself something nice. And the difference is, like if I'm eating food, so the vast majority of the time when I'm eating food, I'm just consuming. I'm not savoring. But when I can get myself to take a bite of a nice Honeycrisp apple and I can really savor it, I enjoy that food more. And I might actually eat less because I'm taking time and savoring. And so this is a way of, from what I hear you saying, it feels like a person able to savor their workout, savor their exercise, and really be present in it in a way that allows the workout then to be more efficient, and you take that carryover to other aspects of life. Am I getting it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of this happens, I don't know if it's unconscious or subconscious. I'm not a brain scientist or a trained mental health professional, but this will happen. It will bleed in without you necessarily having to say, okay, now I'm going to do this in my job. Now I'm going to, because you're doing it while you're working out, which is something, hopefully you found a workout, a fitness tool that works for you, that you enjoy, because that's probably the biggest thing. Make sure you are liking what you're doing. And then all of those benefits you're talking about will become available to you in the rest of your life. So it's not even, yes, you can choose, but you don't even have to choose. You'll just start doing it. That's the thing that's so cool, is it will just bleed in. But you're exactly right. It gives you tools you didn't have. And I love the word resilience. There's a lot of memes about, I'm kind of sick of this whole needing resilience thing. And that's true. It'd be really nice if life would calm down, but it's a thing that we really, really need, is the resilience. And by doing the meditation, in environments that, I don't know how to say it, but kind of have low stakes.
Hmm.
Because I'm not going to be well, I have a friend who's a Olympic weightlifter, but I'm not going to be a competitive weightlifter. I'm a competitive runner only that I'm competing with the other back of the packers. I'm
Hmm.
competing against myself, things like that. I'm not going to win the race. And so these are in some ways very low stakes places to build a set of skills that will serve us in the rest of our life. And it actually goes even beyond that, because ultimately, if you continue to practice, and this is another thing people have probably tasted in their exercise but don't know, you will come to a place where your concept of who you are will even change, where
Hmm.
it's sort of like, now I think of myself as a runner, but I also think of myself as more process than particle.
Hmm.
And you will see that, but that's a little bit woo woo down the rabbit hole. But it's kind of interesting how over time it can become an even bigger thing, because there will come a day for everyone where we will not be able to make the discomfort go away. There will
Hmm.
be a heartache, there will be a physical ache, there will be an emotional ache that is just not going away with any tool that there is in the world. And meditation can help us be present with that and suffer a lot less. So that's actually kind of the end goal, is to build a set of tools that will help us in huge situations. And we do that, one rep at a time.
Well, and I think that can help our interpersonal relationships as well. In
Yes,
that,
yes.
so often when people when you're encountering someone that you care about that's suffering, your ability to just be with them in their suffering is often the greatest gift that you can give them. And when you've trained yourself through meditation to not see suffering as something that is alien and that we should never experience, but instead something that you can be with and understand and just be present in your body for, then you can be present better for other people in their suffering and just acknowledge that space. So
Yes, that's
again,
an
I think it
excellent
can help.
point. Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent point. It just makes us better human beings all around. It
Yeah,
really
and
does.
because we are really more, we're engaging in our life more, so we are living ourselves a little bit better. Now, here's an interesting or a question maybe really interesting to me. But how do you feel about music? Because so many people run with music or they work out to music. Do you feel like if they're starting this process of meditation, should they turn the music off for a little bit so they can be more present in their body, or does it just depend on their relationship with music?
I think it depends. I usually suggest that people try it in silence at least part of the time,
Hmm.
because it's really easy to fool yourself into thinking you're meditating when what you're really doing is just enjoying the music. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of overlap in that, because music causes body sensations,
Hmm.
it also causes thoughts. So you can use the body sensations and thoughts that are generated by the music as your object of meditation. So
Hmm.
where do I feel this music in my body? What is it, what is it telling me in my mind? And noticing all those with this, I haven't really talked about the concept of equanimity yet, but equanimity is sort of an open-mindedness, a curiosity, and like a let it be sort of feeling, so that we're not trying to change the sensations in our body. We're just trying to observe them as they are and let them come and go on their own, and notice that kind of impermanence. And so if somebody wants to use music and they use, you can actually use this sort of shape and sound of music. I'm a musician too, and there's a shape and sound to music, which you don't have to be a musician to hear that, but you can use all of that. And again, it's just what you want to do. And it's also fine to just zone out and
Hmm.
listen to the music. That's totally fine. It's just the intention is
Hmm.
important. If you have chosen to meditate, then meditate. Otherwise, you'll just end up zoning out all the time, and then it's not you'll get some happiness, but you won't get the deeper benefits that you can get from actually training your mind to focus.
So, if someone were to go onto your website, I know you have several books on there. Is there one that you would say, just for people who are starting this process? Is there one better book to start with to, like,
If
to begin into the understanding the nature of motion with regard to meditation?
Yeah, the one that you want to start with if you're interested in meditation is Make Every Move a Meditation. I tell a little bit of the backstory of the first book in the newer book. The first book is a running and mental health memoir called Depression Hates a Moving Target. It's pure memoir. There is a little resource section at the end of it that's about running, and there's a little bit about meditation in it, but that wasn't the main point of that book. It was about sharing my mental health journey from, chronically depressed, nearly suicidal couch potato with bonbons to runner, and how that impacted my life, and how I still have good days and bad days. It's sort of a chasing down the. It's real, and it's also very helpful for anybody who wants to run long races, because it's very specific. It's very detailed about what shoes I tried, what distances I ran, and so for some people it might be a little bit too much detail, but people who don't run like it too, because it's a mental health journey. But if you're interested in the movement meditation, the book Make Every Move a Meditation is the one you want, because it's a how-to. It's a how-to. It's, I weave in stories about examples from my life and from some other people's lives to give examples of the different types of movement and the different types of meditation with the movement. But there's instruction, and there's, I've forgotten how many. I think there's more than 20 exercises that are progressively more and more challenging. So we start with the very simple one, and then move up to probably the most complicated that you could do with this that I have encountered. There's probably much more complicated too, but in my experience. And I share a lot of citations from research and quotes from various people I've studied with, and from books I've read. So it's a small book, but it's very thick with information. So that's probably the place you want to start.
And again, the information that's really for practical steps for how to get going on this, which,
that's
again, there's lots of books that are going to give you the benefits of meditation. But this is what I like about what your writing style and things that you're coming with it is just, actually helping, to make it concrete and make it real. And is it like just best to buy the books off the website, or are you on Amazon as well? Or
I love this phrase. My editor told me to say, my books are available wherever fine books are sold.
Okay.
But seriously, no, whatever your favorite thing, because some people like indie bookstores. Ask your library to order it. They can order it. That benefits all of us. But Amazon, and there will be an audiobook. I think it's coming out in, I want to say, late October. It's been recorded, but it's, there's an ebook, there's paperback, there's the audiobook is coming later. And on my website, there's also some resources. I have a free ebook there. So, but yeah, wherever fine books are sold, and whatever your choice is, because it's available pretty much any place. And if you have a local indie bookstore, that's always the best. Just walk in, say, hey, I want to order this book, or go on their website, say, I want to order this book. Ingram distributes it, so anybody can get it, and you can get it. Even though it would have to be shipped from the United States, you can get it in pretty much any country. Just have to get it.
Well, and again, so I think for most of our listeners here, it's, that idea of mental health and exercise, but then also mental health and meditation. So we're getting all of it in this one-stop shopping.
And this book, I talk about anxiety. I talk about using movement and meditation with anxiety. There's a whole chapter on emotions, on untangling emotions, the thoughts and body sensations that are the web of emotions, and how I do that. I talk about, being bipolar. I talk about therapists and meditation teachers and the things to look out for there. And there's even a chapter on performance for the athletic types, the more people who really want to, kind of up their game there. I tried to cover a lot in this very small book, but I read a ton of books to do it. And it was just, it was such a rich experience for me. It was like, I don't know, it was just such a pleasure to be able to dive into my geeky little niche here.
Well, any other last tips or suggestions you would make? I mean, obviously get moving and things like that, but any other suggestions you would make for people, things that they might not have thought of that might just be an easy way to get started with any of this?
I mean, the easiest thing is just take a walk. If you're having any trouble, just take a walk. Get a dog, take a walk. But let me get kind of really serious for a minute, and this may not be totally your clientele, but if you are feeling in any danger, please contact someone, and please stay, because the thing that meditation will teach us is that everything changes. That's actually, if you ask about meditation, that's what you know. That's what you learn, is everything changes. And so the pain you may feel right now, even though it may feel unbearable, if you can just hang in there 5 more seconds, 10 more seconds, I promise it will change. And I have been at the end. I have been at the end. I've seen the darkness. I've been there. I've touched it, and come out the other side. So stay. That's my message. Please stay. And I'm always here. I have a contact form on my website. I'm always happy to chat with people. Not a therapist, but I can direct you to resources. And I know, you can too, obviously. But that's always kind of my final thing, is just because there's usually somebody out there that is in pain. Nobody else may know about it. And I just want to say that we care. There are people that really do care.
And that's, you're hitting the central belief behind this podcast, which the reason I always tell my clients, and like, whatever it takes, you're just not allowed to die, because I sincerely believe that if we can hang on, that things will feel differently. And, so that's, you couldn't, yes, have better summed up the reasons why I think we should stay. I would never tell someone to stay on this planet if I thought their suffering was going to be constant and eternal.
No, that's not right.
No.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that's not what I mean. I'm
Right.
talking about that inner, thing. Yeah. So, yeah. And thank you for the work you do, because this is, I'm, like I said, I'm not a trained mental health professional, and my hats are off to the people who are in this on the front lines every day. Oh my gosh. So thank you so much for doing this.
And there's space for all of it. And that's what I love, is that it's not a competition. And so for some people, therapy is not going to be the place that works for them. And that's what I love about helping people to understand the connection to animals or the connection to exercise, because there is something, if you're hearing our voices right now, there's something that can work for you. And for some, and hopefully, probably for most of us, a combination of things. But it's okay if medication is not your thing, if whatever is not your thing, we can find something else that will. But don't stop trying things until because this is a gorgeous world, and there's wonderful things in it, and there will be pain and there will be problems, but we can learn to embrace, feel, and endure, and not have to feel like the suffering has no meaning and purpose.
Right. So. Thank you. Oh, you're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Well,
we preach to the choir because they sing.
Well, for any of our listeners, remember, if you to email us or email me at daniel.magler@live.com if you have any questions that you want me or Mariska to answer. Remember to rate and review the podcast. Go on our Instagram, Not Allowed to Die Pod on Instagram, and check out Nita Sweeney's website and her books. And thank you so much for being here. And for everyone who's listening, do whatever it takes to get you through this world. And remember, you are just not allowed to die.
Thank you so much.